reviewed is how our words carry our belief system. And when you have that belief system, is how it's nurturing the words you put out in the world. That's where I think the fine line between good words and bad words. Because if you don't know your belief system, you might end up using the unintentional word that will get you to continue, maybe to hurt someone or to not be gentle to other people. I just realized with them in particular, there were some words that were very unique to men who use violence against women. And I thought this is so interesting. And as a research scientist, you could think, well, these are the words probably breed into their home life, reason why they brought it into this one. But it wasn't just more words; it was the whole culture. And this is where I feel, with these many platforms, we gotta be paying attention. And what are the things that I'm saying out loud, and can I say them out loud?
Also, how are the words that you're using being interpreted? I'm going to give you 3 words right now, and I'm going to ask you if you feel that these words are divisive or inclusive. Our, they, and us. Would you see those words as divisive or inclusive?
I believe they're divisive, and they're less inclusive. Depending on the context, it may be required.
Aha! Yes, and I think that's the point that I was trying to stress. And it's the power that we give these words, right? Because I think that a word like our can be inclusive and divisive depending on who you're using it towards, right? So if I'm in a company and I say our stock shares are up, we're all going to make money, I'm being inclusive of everybody in that room who's part of that company, right? Mm-hmm. But if I say you are not part of our company, then I'm being divisive because I'm excluding someone. So to me, the power of words and how we use the words is really kind of something that's been, I don't know how to express it.
Looking for the right words?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm looking for the right words, and I'm trying to be cautious. And I'm trying to be cautious of which words I use.
So let me use the right words. We will be right back.
That segment of the LatinX Point of View podcast was brought to you by L5 Consultants, a company committed to helping bridge cultural differences. You can find them on Twitter at L5 Consultants or on the web at l5online.com.
So divisive or not divisive. En una boca cerrada no entran moscas, because my mom said it doesn't, you sometimes may have the right words, but doesn't mean you have to say them out loud. Sometimes you have to use your inner voice, because even if you have the right ones, it may not be the appropriate context for you to do and express yourself. So I'm wondering, what do you think about, the moments where we didn't think as a society or individually, that we should have kept our mouth shut or say more.
I hear people challenging this all the time, freedom of expression, right? So here in this country, in the United States, we are big on free speech. Free speech, free speech. It's part of the First Amendment. I can say whatever I want. But, I always ask myself, who says we can't express ourselves without insulting others, right? Why do people feel that they need to use that bomb in order to make a point, or they feel that that's how they're going to win an argument? What I think we've gone away from in recent years is listening to others' points of view with an open mind. And I think that's where it becomes challenging. And we see a lot of these things of people challenging the fact of, I want to say whatever I want. It's very dangerous to say whatever you want, because sometimes what you want to say, you didn't think about it, and it was the first thing that came out of your mouth. And to me, that is one of the most dangerous things. Before someone posts something on social media, take a breath, look at it, and say, am I going to be okay with this in 24 hours? Or if someone were to comment about this, how will I take it? We don't take that moment to pause and breathe and say, anytime we're transitioning in the conversation, we have to take that breath. And I think we need to do the same thing when we're using these new multiple platforms.
Absolutely. There is this count that I was teaching this man, count to 10. But sometimes we ourselves have to use the count to 10, depending on where we are, whether we should be talking about those things out loud. I could see, for example, there's some trigger words for a culture. There are trigger words for an individual, all because they all carry, like I mentioned before, the emotional scars of a community or something that just kind of brings you closer to a point. Those are the moments where you really have to be able to consider who's your audience and who is about to read what you said and how could be interpreted. And for some folks are very considerate, or they're very thoughtful about their audience. Other people who don't care about their audience and just like, if you don't like what I said, well, that's your problem. Then we could see that even could create a little bit more decisiveness, because your words could lead to unity. It could lead to people hating each other. I've seen people who just use one word in a scenario in one of those videos that go viral, and they said one word and it triggered an entire argument because that word was used in completely different context than was intended. And the person may, some of the folks that I've seen, they regret it, some don't regret it, some say, well, I should have said that, but some people say, yeah, I will repeat it again. And that's kind of scary, because when you start seeing it's this loose way of using words and being careless about the impact it has on other people.
I think people have always tried to get a reaction from others from the beginning of time. I don't think that's changed. I think that the platform of how to interact with one another has changed. So some people make money off of conflict. Let's be honest. They will say something controversial to make a stock go down, to make a stock go up, for whatever reason. Or they're going to get clicks. So when we talk about the social media age, we have people talking about making things for clickbait. So they will put something out and this goes back to branding, right? They will put something that catches people's attention and says, I want to watch that. Oh, someone said something controversial. I'm going to click on it. The more clicks they get, the more likes they get, the more they get paid. So people will use that as a tool for making money. Then we have trolls. So people say, well, trolls is the equivalent of a bully on social media. And I think to myself, no, I think people have always tried to troll others, but there wasn't that platform that they had. So we've all always tried to get reactions out of people, whether it's good or bad, whether it was the comedian at your local comedy shop or your local comedy bar saying, crazy things, or where it was your neighbor who was just shouting at his garbage can. People just do and say crazy things sometimes.
Yeah. I wonder if there is just this cautionary, because you also, when you analyze the power of words and you analyze the influence they may have on the people, you got to know what type of influence you have on other people. So if you're a parent and you're using certain ones with your child, that means that you are dictating the culture and the way this person talks to themselves and the messages they're receiving from the environment. And it depends on you how positive or negative that is. If you are a teacher and you're using words of encouragement, well, that's perfect, because you have a bunch of kids that are depending on your perspective of the world. If the higher you go, the more responsibility you carry in how that tone is designing a community, is designing a society, and what becomes the norm and what doesn't become the norm. There was someone who told me that she grew up she said, my dad was a sailor. He has sailor mouth. So in my house we were always cursing. And I thought this is interesting, because for when she was trying to enter in this environment at work, it was very tight, very corporate. So of course this kind of loose language was not allowed. She had a very difficult time fitting in. But for her, it was the norm. It was very the norm to be able to use that word. And where she grew up, it was also the norm. So it's when you see that there is places the language can become a norm, a negative language can become the norm, it is scary because it could really do more than just, cursing is it really doesn't harm anybody unless you're really insulting somebody. But it is dangerous. It is dangerous if you see it in society and all the things that we hear in media now. Where is taking us? What is our norm now?
I think responsibility and accountability are two words that we don't use enough when we think about using our words or why words matter. Because one thing that we do need to understand, and I would give anyone this piece of advice: before you say something that you're going to go put it out there into the world, think about responsibility, think about accountability. Are you going to be accountable for your words if someone is upset with how you relayed the message, or if you did not articulate your message enough to make the masses understand? And don't get me wrong, I don't think that we can please 100% of the people all the time, but we don't also need to offend 95% of the people in order just to get a laugh out of 5% of the people. So again, responsibility, accountability. I think those are two things that we are missing sometimes from this fabric, and we don't think of those words until our account's been paused or halted or suspended, or or until we became a viral sensation because we said something or wrote something wrong. These are the things that we need to think about before putting that message out into the world.
Absolutely. And it makes me think of millennials, and I love millennials. They're cool people. I do believe that there is a sentiment that they're bringing to us to say words are very powerful and we are going to be very sensitive about it. So you're going to have to not only be politically correct, your heart needs to be politically correct. It's no longer acceptable that you walk away from your house and act one way and then you come in your house and act a different way. We're getting to see people, I guess, for their true colors, and there is somewhat of encouragement to say, if you speak this way, we understand who you are. If you speak the opposite, we understand who you are as well. So words are becoming more and more of that personal branding of a community, a culture, a society, in the way the world see United States, the world we see other countries that use different type of languages. It tells us so much about themselves. And I think part of what millennials are doing is kind of raising the bar and saying, you have a huge platform and you can just not misuse it. You have to be very accountable. And hopefully we'll be holding each other accountable in the next decade or so.
When you mentioned the millennials, I started thinking to myself, I know some millennials. And I guess I know some of the older millennials, and they may not encompass those values, but who I do see encompassing some of those values are maybe some of the younger millennials, but especially those that are growing up in Generation Z. So Generation Z, I think, is that generation that fully has grown up in this accessibility is everywhere platform, right? And I think they have the feeling they have the feeling that you were describing before, where they want people to be real with what they say in their mind and in their hearts.
Yes, but yes, but then sometimes it's a catch-22 because it's the freedom of expression. So where is the fine line between me saying something that is positive or negative, and it may be disrespectful to other people, it may be disadvantageous or discriminatory, and how do I know where my right to express myself, where does it start and where does it end, and what is the best practice in this? Are we going back to en boca cerrada no entran moscas?
I don't think that people should question their right for expression. I think they should just be responsible and accountable for the things that they say. So if you want to express yourself, I think there's many ways that we can express ourselves without trying to injure others. I express myself every day, and I try to be thoughtful of the things that I say so that others may not find it insulting. Now, I get it. We can't cater to everyone. I understand that 100%. We cannot cater to everyone's sense